Thank you all so much for joining us today. Over the last year, we've all been challenged to be imaginative and resilient, to ask ourselves what makes a community, to consider who we are and whose we are, to find creative ways to strengthen the bonds between us, even in the face of our physical distance. At Hebrew College, we've doubled down on our efforts to provide meaningful content and connection, to prepare compelling and compassionate leaders, to sustain the substance and the spirit that is at the heart of our life together. Today, we honor 5 wise and generous women who have been weaving the fabric of our community with vision, devotion, and joy, not just for the last year, but for many, many decades. Today, we celebrate the sustaining power of community in our lives. Thank you for helping to create our community.
Hello, Hebrew College. One thing that makes me think of community is the principle or idea of giving the benefit of the doubt. For me, I think this is such an important thing in building community and maintaining community, creating trust and amicability. And I just really believe in this idea, and it was one of the most remarkable and memorable things I learned in Hebrew school, and this is what reminds me of community.
We are interconnected.
I think trust is a really important aspect for community.
I say community is more than human.
Why are you sewing? I want to sew something.
Showing in the trees.
What makes a community is sincere intentions to open up and understand one another and forgive.
Respect.
Love.
Caring.
Love.
Connection and understanding.
Community to me is giving back to whoever you can, whether that's generation to generation or just through acts of loving kindness.
For me, community is a safe space where people can share their ideas and their opinions and not be judged by them.
For me, community is where our differences aren't what divides us apart, but instead they are acknowledged and embraced, and our differences are celebrated and are what bring us together as an entire community.
What is community?
I think it means like a lot of people being together. Communities can sing together.
Hi, this is Mark Baker, President and CEO of Combined Jewish Philanthropies. When I think of the word community, I imagine the Israelites gathered around Mount Sinai waiting to receive the Torah, a group of people who become a holy community because they're bound up together by their relationship with something larger than themselves. They will hear the same words of God at the same time, and yet each of them will hear it according to their own abilities in their own unique way. It's radical unity and radical individuality all at the same moment. That's the kind of community we are aspiring to build together here in Boston, and that Hebrew College is helping to create every day.
What is community? Our spiritual vaccination to COVID-19. Celebrating a birth, mourning a loss, helping our neighbors, teaching our children, praying for each other, repairing the world. That's community. As mayor of Newton, I know community will be our antidote to the pandemic.
Community is friendship and togetherness,
caring and joy,
companionship,
loving each other,
working together for a better world,
people who have your back,
and people that are always, always there.
People who share in your joys and comfort you in your sorrows.
People who are working together for a common goal.
Kindness and humility.
That's for us what community is.
What is it for you?
Ravi, what's this book?
Counting community.
Counting on Community. Do we love community?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we read about the ways we love community? Yeah. How about what can you count on in your community? I can count on
Me.
you, and you can count on
Me.
me.
When I think about the term community in the context of the work that I do at the Miller Center of Hebrew College, the work of the esteemed sociologist Robert Putnam comes to mind. Putnam uses two simple but important words to describe the dynamics of community. One is bonding and the other is bridging. And what Putnam points out is that oftentimes people work very diligently to bond with members of their in-group. And at the same time, of course, we know that we need the work of bridging across communities. But unfortunately, over the course of human history, we have seen over and over again that when people are intensively engaged in the work of bonding with those that are a part of their tribe, oftentimes they ignore or even resent the work of bridging. And of course, we need both. We urgently need both in order to create meaningful lives and healthy societies. And so at the Miller Center, the focus of our work is bringing together religious and cultural leaders from different communities to try and provide them with training so they have the capacity to bring many other people across those divides to the table. And so in this moment, when the world as a whole and our particular communities are just emerging from a year of pandemic, we are trying to redouble our efforts, trying to communicate to people that we can attend both to the particular and to the universal. And as one of my dear friends, Ibu Patel, says, bridges don't fall from the sky, they need to be built. And so the work of the Miller Center is trying to build those bridges for the sake of a more just, compassionate, and sustainable world.
Community is helping people in the way that they need help.
A community is studying, learning, eating, celebrating together.
Pirkei Avot, chapter 6, Mishnah 6, teaches us that one of the 48 pathways of Torah is nosei v'ol im chavero, to take up the burdens alongside one's neighbor. To me, this is the essence of community. Community is what we do for one another.
Light is
It is my great privilege and joy to honor you today. Beverly, Nancy, Susan, Myra, and Diane. You each, in your own way, have a lifetime of wisdom and experience in creating and nurturing communities of meaning, in weaving webs of connection that are caring and purposeful and gentle and strong. Together, you are unstoppable. You agreed to be honored today as a group because it is as a group that you have led the capital campaign for Hebrew College's new home and the exciting vision for our new shared campus. The first thing you did was so subtle that you might not remember, but I do. You each stepped up and said, "we," and then you kept saying it. I can't tell you how much it means to me every time I hear you say, "we." That for me is what makes a community. People who are willing to take the risk of saying, "we." Not you, not they, but we. The act of speaking in the first person plural is a deeply Jewish act. And it is an act of generosity, commitment, courage, and love. We are in this together. The way you've worked together has consistently been an embodiment of that we. You've listened carefully to each other, built off each other's ideas, asked hard questions, reached for answers together, and along the way been present to each other through moments of loss and worry and inspiration and joy. From the beginning, you intuited that the image for our campaign would have to be one of growth and renewal. I think it was Nancy who first had a dream about pomegranates. And then Myra who said, "Livnot biyachad," we have to say we are building together. Susan added that we are also branching out in new ways. Diane kept pushing us to imagine possibilities and look to the future. Beverly reminded us to dig deep and draw on our roots. And so the vision emerged and began to take shape of a pomegranate tree, full of life, reaching deep into the ground, branching out and up to the sky, bearing fruit and the seeds of new possibilities to come. So we want to present to each of you today your own hand-blown glass pomegranate, because you are the gardeners tending our vision of community with all the patience and hope and hard work that real gardening entails. Throughout this sacred building project, we've carried with us the image of the Mishkan, the holy tabernacle that the entire Israelite people built together on their journey to the Promised Land. Like our ancestors in the wilderness, you know that it's not just about what we're building together. It's about how we're building together. Inside each of your pomegranates is a scroll with a handwritten passage from Midrash Tanhuma, in which Rabbi Meir says, "What was the blessing that Moses gave to the people after the Mishkan was completed?" The answer, Yehi Ratzon, Shetishre Shechina b'maaseh yedechem. May the Shekhinah, may the divine presence dwell in the work of your hands. You have created a foundation for our new home with vision and love and nidivut halev, generosity of heart. May we build on that foundation so that our community will always be a dwelling place for God's presence on earth. We are taught that after Moses offered his blessing, all of the people responded together. Vihi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, u'ma'aseh yadeinu konena aleinu, u'ma'aseh yadeinu konenehu. May God's favor rest upon us and establish the work of our hands.
For our thoughtful consideration, let us liken the intention to make a community to planting a garden. As earnest and devoted gardeners, let us plant seeds that will nourish community with our shared values. Some of these principles include, but are not limited to, seeds of hope, opportunity, and joy, gratitude, generosity, responsibility, loving kindness, trust, and faith, honor, respect, humility, patience, and compassion. We are committed to embracing our differences and promoting diversity. We are determined to support those living with hardship. We are obligated to care for the more vulnerable. Imagine this prolific garden. Imagine a community that upholds these ideals. What makes a community? Our communal decision to engage in this practice as a way of life. Our collective practice shines light on the roots of suffering and guides us to realize our highest spiritual potential, including infusing happiness, trust, and love in our everyday experiences. We invite you, our fellow gardeners, to join Hebrew College in the practice of making a community. Hebrew College strives to support these deeply rooted community values in its pluralistic rabbinical school, adult learning programs, teen programs, and the Miller Center for Interreligious Learning and Leadership. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. To make a community is to be consciously there for one another, physically and or emotionally, while we advocate for our shared vision.
So what makes a community? It has been such a great question that I really hadn't given much thought to before. But for me, it's been an important process and an opportunity for my own personal exploration. I understand that there are communities that live and endure physically, and also those that may be just memories of experience and connection. This has led me to reflect on the deep connection I've had with the current exhibit at Hebrew College. The photography depicts people seeking help, praying, maintaining religious and spiritual rituals in parking lots and grassy meadows, in groups and individually, each adapting to their COVID experience of isolation. This is truly faith in isolation. I've been mesmerized by these images of people, strangers to me, so deeply immersed in their faith and practice. I have been surprised at how strong a connection I've experienced to these people, identifying with my own need for prayer and my own reaching out for connection this past year. What an awakening I've had, understanding that indeed I felt this awesome connection and this overwhelming awareness of being in community with people I really didn't know. And I did not need any words to express this feeling. I just needed to look.
A community is a group of people who share a set of beliefs and values that enable it to support one another and work toward a common goal. A community embraces its diversity, seeking to define its differences, yet collaborating to reach a solution that feels right to all. One of the hallmarks of an exemplary community is the ability of its members to listen to one another, to respect one another, and to keep moving forward in its quest for unity. Communities succeed when everyone feels strengthened by both the process and the product.
What makes a community? No one understood this more than our ancestors. The Egyptians built pyramids. The Greeks built the Parthenon. The Romans built the Colosseum. And the Jews built schools. A strong community shares common ethics, values, and traditions that survive the test of time. The Jewish community bears the responsibility to help the survival of the Jewish people. The Jewish community is beholden to the word tzedakah, or charity. It is both a written law and an unwritten bond that we look out for one another, the elderly, the hungry, and the poor. Likewise, we act as pillars of support for our houses of worship, our cultural institutions, and our educational institutions. To quote Rabbi Sharon Anisfeld's last email, may we continue to be watched over and to watch over each other. That is what really makes a community special. The concern, care, and respect we have for one another.
There has to be an action verb in community, a shared project of some sort. But how do we, who have become community, just working on this, how do we extend that into the vision of what Hebrew College is going to be? And that answer is not an easy answer. But this is the way I think it will shape out. In the 21st century, I know it's about the future. It's not about the past. But we, as Jews, and people who travel with us, loving what is Jewish, we have things that bind us. We have a common story. We tell tales, biblical tales, that binds us. We have values. So I think we go very deep, and those that want to join us actually go very deep. And I think what we are creating at Hebrew College that will be the actual core of what we are, we will make visible the collaboration that we are part of. It will be a very exciting environment because the future will be shaped by all of us. And that makes us a community.
Hareini mekabel alai mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. What makes a community is love, acceptance, understanding, and connection.
I have the privilege of offering a few reflections on this year's recipient of the Esther Award, Jillian Siegel, Zichrona Livracha. Jill, who was one of my first students and who will always remain one of my most beloved, described herself as a logophile. She wrote, quote, "I hold by Rabbi Akiva's rule that every word, every letter in Torah is deliberate. We are challenged to find the meaning behind each word. Like literature, the greatness of Torah is found in its poetry." End quote. As much as Jill devoted herself to folding meaning out of every letter of Torah, she dedicated herself to amplifying the meaning of each one of her classmates, as well as of me. Jill turned our classroom into a line of poetry. Each of us shimmered like words in a perfectly balanced metric line. She helped us to read ourselves. She helped us to read each other. She helped us to read the text of Torah with generosity, rigor, and at times with an exceptionally well-placed ironic wink. The 18th century folk healer, the Baal Shem Tov, used to quote God's command to Noach, Zohar ta'aseh l'teva, make a window for the ark. Because teva in Hebrew can mean both ark and word, the Baal Shem Tov would reread the verse as, make a window for your word. Jill gave windows to our words. She helped us to see out of ourselves and into each other. I speak, I think, on behalf of everyone who studied with her when I say that she remains with us every time we open up the Torah to read and every time we turn to each other to listen.
Shema Yisrael. Listen, Israel. What makes a community is when we take up the obligation to listen to each other, to listen for each other, to listen for the sacred place and role we each have, and to respond. I have learned that so deeply from Hebrew College, and I'm so grateful for the gift of being a part of this community and helping make this community.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here with us, for listening and sharing in the wisdom about community and Hebrew College. I really appreciate your effort and caring. I want to thank everyone who made this event possible. First, the Hebrew College professionals, our faculty and staff who teach with both passion and compassion to educate the next generation of Jewish leaders. To our students, rabbinical, cantorial, and graduate students, and to the thousands of youth and adult learners who study with us every single year, thank you. To our partners, two of whom I'd like to mention tonight, Rabbi Mark Baker, CEO of Combined Jewish Philanthropies, and Newton Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller. You are with us every step of the way as Hebrew College continues to be a thriving force in the Jewish community, and we move to our new home. To tonight's honorees, Nancy, Susan, Myra, Beverly, and Diane, your inspiration and endless devotion toward raising the big dollars for our campaign. It is all with a smile on your face and love in your heart. I could not dream of better partners. Thank you. To Rabbi Sharon Cohn-Anisfeld, our leader, my friend and partner on this journey. Hebrew College will emerge stronger and sustainable, and you led us there. Finally, to all of you, you are what makes Hebrew College community strong. Your support both spiritually and financially. You step up when we need you, and I know you will continue to support Hebrew College in the future. A heartfelt and sincere thank you. We need you. Again, it was wonderful being with you tonight. Thank you for sharing this evening and celebrating the wisdom and inspiration of Hebrew College. Good evening.